All right, welcome everybody around the world. Welcome to all my subscribers. This is me a quick short video, like 5 minutes or so. I'll have to go somewhere, so I got to make it speedy. So for this video here, I just got two verses alone, which when read together, they show you something very, very important, very, very logical. And my great question that I'm putting forth to the Trinitarians is, why can't you answer this question without waffling? Because anybody can make up an answer. Anybody could waffle enough or make up enough words and, you know, yak enough where they could formulate a response that might fool some naive people into thinking it's an answer, but not a valid answer. Uh, so that's why my question is, why can't Trinitarians answer this great question from these two verses without waffling? Because if they have the stellar truth, they should be able to answer it simply and clearly, succinctly, without having to waffle over and over the hills and horizon for eternity trying to explain something away. So, what two verses are these? Well, these are often overlooked verses. And out of the huge lineup of verses that I wanted to read for a bigger video tonight, I thought, why not isolate these two and just do a video on them? So, they're both from the book of John. And the two verses are actually only a couple chapters apart. Oh, welcome. Good to see you. This will be a short video. So in John 8:54, we learn here that Jesus says that he cannot glorify himself. Okay, so we're going to read the verse. It says, Jesus answered, "If I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who is glorifying me, of whom ye say that he is your God." So like I said, Jesus here is saying that he cannot glorify himself, right? Well, he can, but like Jesus said, if I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. So you know what I mean when I say he can't glorify himself, okay? Because it would make the glory as nothing, okay? So Jesus has made that unarguably clear. But my question to that is, and this isn't the overall question, but this is just verse number 1. But if Jesus was God, couldn't he glorify himself? Right? But Jesus says, if I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. But anyways, that's just one verse. The second verse, and they're meant to be understood together, is in John 12:28. In this verse, it shows us as proof that God can clearly glorify himself. Because, the skeptic here might say, oh, well, maybe Jesus can't glorify himself even though he is God because God doesn't glorify himself. This is what somebody might say. But John 12:28 shows God clearly glorifying himself. Okay? And the verse says, Father, glorify thy name. There came therefore a voice out of the heaven, quote, I both glorified and again I will glorify it. So somebody asked God, probably Jesus, asked God to glorify his own name. And God responded, I both glorified and again I will glorify it. So God glorified himself there. So we know that God is able to glorify himself. And it's from John, who wrote the first verse. Okay, so if God can glorify himself, and if Jesus was God, then why couldn't Jesus glorify himself? That's the great question. Because Jesus told us that he can't glorify himself, but we're told that God can glorify himself. So if Jesus was God, why wasn't he able to glorify himself? Okay, that's the great question. It's like I said, anybody can make up an answer to anything, but can you answer that question without waffling? Can you provide a simple, succinct reply that's logical and plausible and sensible that doesn't involve some long barreling, snowballing waffling? This is my great question, right? I would love to hear a Trinitarian explain away this one here. And in your response, you cannot use concepts that aren't found in the Bible. So don't start talking about modalities and all this and that there, because that's not biblical. It's not in the Bible. Give a simple, succinct, clear, sensible answer, and then we can take it from there. But I can guarantee you that no Trinitarian will be able to. They will not. Some might be able to make a response, but it's going to be full of waffling. I can guarantee you. Anyways, take care, folks, and God bless.